Hey guys, and welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to be talking about my experience with the second trimester screening test. Whew. I just filmed my 20-week bump date, and yeah, as if you guys watched that 20-week bump date, you guys know that I was going through like bad health problems, like with my sciatic and with my inflamed gums and with my headaches and my eczema acting up. And so it was like a lot of things, and then to top it all off, this happened. So I don't even know where to start. Okay. Woo. I'm not gonna cry. Not gonna cry. I don't cry in videos. That's not what I do. I don't even cry in real life. I'm very, my emotions are very inside. Very few people have seen me cry because I just am not that person. So I'm not gonna cry. Not gonna cry. All right. Let's see. First of all, I like to start with, when I was first pregnant with my first child, I worried about everything. I read all the books and I knew about every screening they were going to do to me. And every time I took out blood work, I knew exactly what that blood work was for. And I was worried until I would get results. And I felt like that took away so much of my pregnancy because I was constantly just worried, making sure that the baby was okay. And I'm not saying that I'm not worried that my baby's okay now. It's just a little nicer. It's a little more like you're enjoying the pregnancy. I'm sorry, heartburn. Ugh. I'm enjoying the pregnancy a little bit more instead of worrying so much about screenings and about things. And I have a very my mentality is right now of like, whatever is going to happen is meant to be, and I'm just gonna deal with it head on, and I'm just gonna face it. And that's kind of how I entered my second pregnancy, which was the miscarriage, and that's another video. But this one I kind of did the same thing because I wanted to enjoy it more. And so with that in mind, I did my first screenings, which is they just take out a bunch of vials of blood, and they just told me everything was great. I'm like, okay. So then on Haley's promotion day, when she got promoted from preschool, I had an appointment to go to the lab and do my second trimester screening. Now, I don't know if anyone's seen this, but this is the book that most people get, and it's the California Prenatal Screening Program, and it just basically talks about like the screening, what they're gonna do in the screening. I honestly don't remember them giving this to me, but like I said before in other videos, I'm very dumb right now. Like the pregnancy brain is on high, and I'm very forgetful, and I'm very I'm very forgetful, and I just say things and they don't have meaning, and I'm like, what just came out of my mouth? So I really don't know if they did give me this. I don't have it. I remember though getting this when I was pregnant with Haley, my first pregnancy, but I don't remember getting it with my second one. So this one is the quad marker screening, which is the one blood specimen drawn second trimester. So you take this test between the weeks 15 to 20 weeks, and they are testing for Down syndrome, trisomy 18, trisomy 13, neural tube defects, abdominal wall defects, and Smith-Lemmy optimized syndrome, better known as SLOS. So those are what they're basically testing you for. So they just go in. I just went in, did a vial, didn't think anything of it. And then, what day was it? It was a Tuesday. I got a call during work. I didn't pick it up. I didn't recognize the number. I don't pick up numbers I don't recognize. And then it said, I didn't even listen to the voicemail because I'm like, I'm at work, I don't have time. And then I was at home, and it was like 5:50. It was close to 6, and I got another call, and it was from my doctor's office. My OB. Sorry, the camera just died on me. So I was getting a call from my OBG and my pregnancy doctor, and I was like, why is she calling me? That doesn't seem right for her to be calling me. That seemed very odd to me that she was calling me, and it kind of freaked me out, because I'm like, it's so late. Why would she be calling me? And then so I couldn't pick it up though. So I let it go to voicemail, and then I checked the voicemail. For you guys that don't know, I have a fear of voicemails because I feel like anytime you get a voicemail is bad news. And she just said, hey, I got your test results. Just give me a call. And I was like, why does she want me to call her? You know, like I feel like people would just be like, oh, got your test results. Everything's great. And then so it made me curious. So I checked my voicemail from like earlier that day, and it was also the doctor's office. And then I started getting worried because I'm like, she called me twice in one day wanting me to call her. Oh, heartburn. And so I got really worried because of those messages. And so I said, and the message said to call her tomorrow. I'm like, oh my God, I can't, look, it's already, I can't call her tomorrow. I can't wait. So I immediately called the office and I said, is my doctor still there? And they said, oh yeah, she's still here. So they patched me through, and the doctor basically said, we got your results in, and it looks like your test levels aren't where we need them to be. And I was just like, like, what does that mean? And then she's like, it looks like your baby will have Down syndrome. But it's not a for sure thing. It's she started saying numbers, and I heard like 1 out of 3. And then she just kept talking, and she just kept talking and talking and talking. And I just checked out. The moment she says, it looks like your baby will have Down syndrome. It was very hard to process. Because like, I wasn't heartbroken for me. I was just heartbroken for the life that my baby was gonna have. You just want so much for your baby to be healthy. You want so much for your baby to just lead a normal life as possible and not have to worry about, like, life is hard enough as it is, you guys, to have extra things going on. Like, there's so many people that are living fulfilling lives that have Down syndrome, but as a mother and someone that doesn't know anything about Down syndrome, I was so scared, because I'm like, I'm gonna have to raise a baby and I have no idea what I'm obviously gonna do research. Never in our minds that we thought like, oh, okay, we're gonna terminate the pregnancy. Never. Like, I just didn't even fathom. Like, I just, one of those things like, okay, we're just gonna deal with. And the moment she told me that, I kind of blinked out, but I was like, okay. And she said, we made you an appointment to see a genetic specialist so they could do more testing and see if it's really true. The appointment was for Friday. She said, try and call on Thursday. Well, she patched me through the nurse. The nurse said she got me the appointment for Friday, but to try and call them on Wednesday to see if I could get a Thursday appointment. And because obviously that's something, like, even the nurse, like, that's something that you really want to know right away. You don't want it waiting. So try to see if you can make an appointment. She goes, I just made a Friday appointment because I didn't know what days you would be available. So far, like, I was like, okay, don't worry. And I'm like, okay, I hung up and I was like, fine. I it's just something, I'm just going to get books. I'm going to read on it. To me, the genetic doctor was more of trying to find out how severe his Down syndrome was at that point, if it was at all possible to find out. I wanted to see if it was like, if he would be able to live a normal life, as you see so many Down syndrome being able to live a normal life, or was it going to be to the point where he's going to need assisted living, like when something happens to us, like he is going to be severely with severe problems. So that's where my head was, is like, okay, we're going to deal with it. And I was like still strong face, like I hadn't even cried. Like, it's fine, we're going to deal with it. I'm going to get the books, I'm going to read all I can about it. I just need to make sure that it's at the less severe stage. Like that's where my heart was, like, please God, make this at the less severe stage, then so it would be easier for our child to develop. And so Renee got home and I had to tell him. I had to tell him, and I couldn't tell him. I could not. That's when I broke down. Like the moment I had to say it out loud to somebody else is the moment that like I just like crumbled, and I was just like, oh my God, something is wrong with our baby. I could not. See, you get me when you talk about my babies, you mess with my babies, you get the waterworks. He came in the room and I'm like, I said, I have to tell you something. I got a call from the doctor, and then I started crying and crying and crying and crying. And he was just like, what? Like, poor thing. Like he didn't know what was going on. And then I told him, and then he just like, it took him a long time to process. Like he just went blank, and he just had like it. He reacts differently. I react sometimes with tears, and he reacts with just letting it sink in and seeing, people react differently. I think he was just trying to keep a straight, like a brave face for us, because I was obviously breaking down in front of him. And I think that's what a good partnership is. Like, while one's breaking down, the other one's strong. And so I think that's what he needed to be for me at that moment. But yeah, so that's what happened that day. Then the next day I have to go to work and just like pretend nothing's going on, because I don't want just to like start blubbering, and I don't do that, and I don't let my personal life affect. I don't like people really knowing my personal life at work. And so the next day I had to go to work, and I just had to, pretend that nothing was happening. And I told my coworker, and she's kind of like, she's my boss, but I consider her a coworker because she's awesome. And I told her, and I had told her the night before, and I was like, I'm not going to be there Friday. And she's like, completely understood. And I said, but I will try to make an appointment on Thursday. So that's what I was doing. So Renee was asking for Friday off. I was so short notice, and I was training a new person that I wanted to tell her, because she is such a close friend of mine now. So I wanted to tell her. And so I go to work, and I just don't even talk to her about it at that moment, because I don't want to, because I know if I do, I'll start just like crying. Anyways, I call that day. Sorry. Oh, my ass is starting to hurt. I call the next day to try to make an appointment for Thursday. So basically now it's Wednesday. I call for Wednesday. I call on Wednesday, and they have no appointments for Thursday. So then I just have to wait it out on Friday. So our appointment is at 9:30, and it's with a genetics counselor first. So mind you, we were there at 9:30, and we probably didn't get out till like noon, 12:30, I want to say. So it's pretty much a lengthy appointment that you're going to have. So basically she sits down with you, the genetics doctor, and she shows you your test results. And first she wanted to know about what the doctor had told me exactly. And I told her, and she says, well, I don't want to scare you. That seems scary. And I don't want you to be scared because the chances of, she goes, I already reviewed your file, and the chances of you having Down syndrome or your baby having Down syndrome are very low. So then immediately when she says that, I want to cry because just out of like, I guess out of relief, because I just like, what? Now they're low? Like, what's happening? We went from like 1/3 of a chance, and in my brain already having Down syndrome, to like, my chances are really low. Like, what's going on? So she basically showed me my test results. She goes, we're going to do the math, and so you guys could see what your test results are. So there's basically four tests that they run. Test AFP, HCG, UE3, I, and H. And so it's basically risking, like, it's checking to see the list I had showed you before. And they've seen patterns, like if you have a certain low level of, like, say AFP, you're more likely to have this syndrome. If you have low of this, you have likely this syndrome. So everybody is on a curve, like a bell curve, and they want everyone to be right and smack in the middle. She goes, but not everybody is going to be right there in the middle. Some are going to be slightly off. You don't want it to be like this. You want it to be either right in the middle or a little bit off. You don't want to be dramatic. So two of the bloodline of the test, AFP and I and H, were a little off. The AFP was a little bit down, and she's like, it's a 0.66. She goes, that's just a smidge, like so little down, but it's not where we want it to be. And the I and H, which is at 2.15, she says that's a little bit high. That's just a little bit higher than we want it to be. But she goes, your numbers are not dramatic. They're not like so dramatic, but we've noticed a trend that the people with these numbers a little bit off sometimes have kids that have Down syndrome. So that's how they test these things. So she said, so after doing all the math, she goes, the chances of you having a child that has Down syndrome are a 0.5%. 1.5% chances that my child will have Down syndrome. Whoa. To explain how, like, your body goes through like a cold sweat of just relief, I just can't even explain it. I was just so like obviously they're still at 1.5%, but it's, come on, compared to like a guarantee, like 1/3, like a guarantee that your baby's gonna have Down syndrome, down to like a 1.5%. It was like a roller coaster of emotions. Like, me and Renee were just like, oh my God, like so happy, you know? But they said, we're still going to do some testing if you like, and we could do that. So the first testing is they do ultrasound. And it's with a really high-tech ultrasound that could even detect the blood flow. So they're going to check all the organs. They do two ultrasounds. The nurse comes in, does an ultrasound, and then a doctor comes in and does the exact same ultrasound, and they do measuring of like the lengths of the head, of everything. It's a very extensive, long ultrasound, actually. So they did it on me, and we could tell it's a boy. For those of you who don't know, we could totally tell it's a boy in there. And the nurse was saying, like, everything is measuring right. But the genetics counselor did tell us that 50% of kids with Down syndrome scan on their ultrasound normal. So that's not really a good measure to do, but it's good to check, because if certain things pop out in the ultrasound, then they could compare it with other things. So it's good to do the ultrasound. But this little monkey was so bad, would not stay still, and was just like moving all over the place. And so it was very hard for them to get measurements, and they were really digging in there, and I was like, oh my God, like, what the heck? But I was like, just do what you gotta do, like, just make sure my baby's okay. And we teased the baby, saying, I'm gonna go in there with the internal ultrasound and kick that little booty of yours. But just because he was moving so much and not being cooperative at all. But besides that, the ultrasound went great. Both the nurse and the doctor said everything looks great. I was going to do step 2. So at the genetics had said after the ultrasound, they could do one of 2 things. So there is this thing called amniotic, something with amniotic. Basically, what I believe it is, because I did not go when she was first talking about it, I made a face and she says, I have a feeling you don't want to do that. And I believe it's when they put a needle into your stomach and they pull amniotic fluid, and it's actually quite dangerous. It has a lot of risk, but I'm told that it's very accurate because you're basically taking, DNA from the amniotic, from in there. I didn't care if like my baby was gonna have Down syndrome. I just did not want that to get done on me. Because I didn't want to risk losing the baby. So to me, it was more important for me to keep this baby than to just find out if it has Down syndrome or not. Like, we're going to find out eventually. I don't want them doing that to me. To basically the baby. So she said option 2 was a blood test. And I'm like, I thought that's what I first took. And she was saying that this testing is only like 85% accurate. The blood test that I was going to take was like 99 point blah, blah, blah accurate. I'm like, why don't we just do that test? Like, why are we messing with the first test? But whatever. They said that one, the blood test that they're going to do, checks for chromosome. So you literally will see if it has 2 chromosomes or 3. If it has 3 chromosomes, that means the baby obviously has Down syndrome. It's born with an extra chromosome. So they're basically checking every level to make sure that there's only 2 chromosomes and not a third. So that results would take a week to get in. And that they would let me know as soon as they had the results. They would call me and call my doctor. They took my information, Renee's information. So after the ultrasound, I went back to the waiting room and then got called in to let me know to get the blood work. Easy peasy, just blood work. And then you go home and you basically have to wait. But with the knowledge of the 1.5% and then the ultrasound being so good, me and Renee were so like already relieved. Like, we're like, okay, like our baby's gonna be okay. Like, there is that 1% chance, like 1.5% chance, but we were just so relieved. We walked out a lot more just relieved, I guess, than when we walked in. So even though we didn't have like results, on the following Thursday, they called me and they left a voicemail and basically said, great news, your baby is completely healthy. There is no signs of Down syndrome. There is not a 3rd chromosome, and your baby is healthy. So I was just so ecstatic. Like, I called Renee immediately and I said, our baby's going to be okay. But we did go through like an emotional roller coaster that week of just like, wow, going from happy of being pregnant to like, oh my God, your baby could be something really wrong with your baby, to like, okay, your baby's fine. It's just a lot to take in, especially with my hormones. I am shocked I kept it together as well as I did, having just one crying meltdown. I think if we would have got a different result, I think that would be different. I think the fact that I did not have concrete results from a doctor saying, yes, this is happening, I think that's what kept it together. I think if I would have got that phone call saying like, okay, you do have Down syndrome, but it's whatever, and I would have broken down again. I don't know. But thankfully, our baby's healthy and great. But yeah, it's scary stuff, you guys, doing these screenings, but obviously they are important because you have to find out these things early. There's so many things that could be going wrong with your baby, so it's very important to find out right away. Even if your baby's healthy, it's good to find out that it's healthy right away. There's only certain things that they could see in the ultrasound, so these screenings are so important. So I'm just so grateful that my baby is healthy. And but yeah, you guys, that was scary. Like, that was like the scariest thing I think I've ever had to go through. And yeah, that's, you guys, that was insane. That was, I got my results, the genetic lab. Oh my God, you guys, it was just so much going on. And just, you go to work and you have to work and pretend that these things aren't really happening. You just can't break down, and it's hard not to break down, you know, but you just have to keep a brave face, because you still have a baby. You have another kid, and it's insane, and life is hard, and life sucks sometimes, and you know, you plan for life, and life's like, no, that's not what's gonna happen. But anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I am so grateful. I'm so excited. My baby is okay. My baby boy. If you guys have not checked out the gender reveal video yet, obviously I've already told you, but check it out anyways. I will leave it in the link card. Or if you guys want to see the 20-week bump date, it will pop up on the side right now. Don't worry. But there you go, guys. The most scary news a pregnant mother could get. Well, probably not the most scary, but it's up there. And see you guys in my next video.